Reece, my brother Reece. Reece. The homie Reece, you already know, man. It's Taylor Gang, I die.
Who you with?
Reece.
Yeah. Who you with?
Who you with?
Hey, we back at it, man. It is Friday for Friday. We feeling good. Listen, before we get started with this very special guest, you know, we add that very for certain people. We got to remind you guys that Monday we kick off our giveaway for Buzz Lightyear, the new movie that's about to hit theaters. I want you guys to get ready to win those tickets. We got, you know, parents out there. The movie tickets is high. They high. You buy a bucket of popcorn, you're going to have to break out the Amex, all right? So we got you covered, man. Recession-proof up here. And we got those movie tickets for you for that Buzz Lightyear movie that's kicking off this Monday. So make sure that y'all are tuned in for your chance to win, all right? So hit the hype bell for that because I'm excited about seeing the movie and bringing the kiddos out there. All right, let's go ahead and get all the way to it. We got a special guest in the building.
It's all about that star power.
Stay tuned because you know Reece is going to have one of your favorite stars with him today.
Stay tuned.
Listen, man, some people, you know, we got little intros for or whatever. You get the biggest intro ever. So you ready for that?
I'm ready for that. Let's do it.
All right, man. Let's go ahead and get to it. From Intern to Columbia Records Senior VP, Wilt Wallace is in the building. This man may be the epitome of the Atlanta dream. This Cum Laude graduate from Morehouse College has worked with or for some of the biggest and most influential record labels in hip-hop history, including BME, Warner Brothers, and now Columbia. He's held titles like National Director of Mix Show, Senior Director, National and Urban Rhythm Promotions at Warner Brothers, Senior Vice President, Urban Promotions at Warner Brothers. He's worked with artists like Meek Mill, Lil Jon, Party Next Door, Polo G, Kanye West. This father, husband, son of the year, because you always gonna catch him at like right at half court or somewhere, right there with his mom Dukes or his pops on his B-Day. Any of that can happen. Man, this is fanatic of a sports fan when it comes down to Washington sports, as you can tell by the jersey right now. Wilt Wallace, VA legend, is in the building. What's up, my guy?
Wow, man, you got me excited to meet myself,
That's
man. That was a great intro. Thank you, my brother. I'm excited to be here, though.
Now, I know you usually you're the guy that brings the artists, the people to these radio stations.
That's right.
But we wanted to put the spotlight on you because without you, a lot of times these artists aren't known. These entertainers don't get the just due that they have. So you're kind of like those driving forces behind it. So we wanted people to kind of know who you are, see your story for the greater public. Because in the industry, we know who you. It's like, you know how they say everybody hates Chris, everybody loves Wilt. You know what I'm saying? Always 100. Super great dude, man. Every time I bumped into you, ran into you, it's always been 1,000, man. So I appreciate that.
Likewise, I appreciate you having me. You know, I'm used to being behind the scenes. You know, public recognition really isn't my thing. That's why I do what I do.
Right.
But it's nice to be celebrated and actually be able to give some information to people out there that want to do what I do.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we get into the I guess nuts and bolts in the interview, I do want to talk to you because I suffer from the same situation when it comes down to being a sports fan of a city or a place where the sports aren't great, but we still go ride with our guys. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm from Jersey. You know, the Nets have never been much to brag about. We had spurts, you know what I mean? And our football team, we claim the Giants, they play in Jersey, but we really don't have a team.
Right.
So tell me, how's it been being a Washington sports football fan through the years?
Man, it's been brutal. I mean, it's crazy because, like, growing up in that area, you know, they was called the Redskins at the time.
Right.
They went to 4 Super Bowls in the 80s when I was growing up and won 3 of them. So you got used to it, like, oh, this just happens every year.
Happens.
We good.
This
is just what it is. And then after 91, we went on that drought, and we still ain't come out of there yet. So it's like, man, it's tough. It's brutal, but I feel like when you're loyal to something, the reward pays off so much bigger when you do get there. You know what I'm saying? So I just stay loyal to it. You know?
I hope y'all are paying attention to that. And then when we talk about that, you're running the music industry kind of solidifies that same loyalty. You do over a decade with WB, Warner Brothers. And now you've moved on to greener pastures, as I'm going to say. You know what I mean? But we're going to get into that in a second. Let's kind of talk about, because you up in that area, DCVA area, right? You fall in love with hip hop. What is the first, because you've been in this industry, like, what's the first song that you fell in love with that made you love hip hop?
First song, that's tough. I'd probably say, just coming off the cuff, I'd probably say Slick Rick, Children's Story. You know what I'm saying? That one probably.
Uncle Ricky?
Yeah, right.
Got you.
Because just the storytelling and the narrative was so slick. But I'd say like the first album that really like changed my life and made me want to dedicate my life to hip hop was De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. I was on a trip to Virginia Beach with my brother. My brother's 15 years older than me. We had the same mother, different fathers. So we kind of grew up almost like only children.
Right.
But he's my dog. Like he's always been there there for me, old enough to be a parent, but treats me like a peer. You know what I'm saying? So he took me out with his homies to the beach to go to a wedding. I'm like 7, 8 years old, you know, so I'm like with the big dogs. I'm having a good time. And I just remember they put that De La Soul album on, and the samples and the lyrics and the vibe, the energy, the fun, you know, it locked me in, and I wanted to do it forever. And then when you get a little further forward from that, when I heard Biggie Juicy. When I heard Juicy, I was like, just hearing him tell, again, I'm really into storytelling, as you can see. So hearing him tell his story and manifest the life he wanted and then actually live it, you know, it was just amazing for me.
That's
so that
dope,
was big.
man.
Yeah.
That's super dope. I always like to ask that question because anybody in the industry is usually like a moment or a song or a car ride, like you just said. It's like for me, I was just so happy to watching TV one day, and I'm watching Tom and Jerry, and my uncle turns and Crisscross is on. And I see kids that look like me, like my age, jumping and doing. I was like, what is this? I need a piece of this.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. That was a big one for me too. I used to wear my baseball jersey backwards in middle school. Yeah. One of my partners went to middle school with them. So when I moved down here, like just to see their influence on the culture, especially here in Atlanta, is amazing, man. Those dudes, they were on tour with Michael Jackson. I mean, they changed the world, man. And as a young dude that was about their age, it made you feel like you could do it too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Do it too. Absolutely, man. I think that's important, and that's why we like bringing people like you up here, because there's so many people that they want to be in the music industry or they want to manage artists, so they got homeboys that rappers, sing, or homegirls, but they don't know all of the avenues to make it. Yeah, and you know what I tell people when people come to me, there's no like one size fits all plan. There's no formula. There's no like, they're like, what's the book that tells you the steps? There's no steps. We could take 10, 15 different people to do what I do, and they all have a different path or journey. You know what I mean? So, you know, I was very fortunate. I feel like in retrospect, looking at it, I kind of took the steps. I didn't take the elevator. I did my career, didn't just move overnight. Like you said, intern, you know, for like 3 years. I was out there hustling, working for free. And my dudes back home, you know, they were getting nice jobs. One of my homeboys, he was a manager at the tire center at Costco, making like 50 a year, and, you know, 19, 20 years old. That's
you know,
that's a big buck. That's a big,
19, 20 years old, man, especially in the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and he had the Acura and everything. So looking at him and what he was able to do at that time, it was tough sometimes going to the office at BME every day knowing I'm not getting paid for it.
And
but
you're around a bunch of people that's got
just
the money.
making money.
I get
but
it.
I just believed if I invested the time that it would pay off. And one of my big homies, Orlando McGee, was a big influence because I saw what he did kind of coming up under the Dungeon family and Organized Noise, and how he kind of moved and grew in the game without necessarily having to check early on. And then eventually when he was working for John and them at BME, he was getting the check. And so I said, well, if he did it, now I can be, you know, under him and do it. And so, you know, you guys sometimes see an example of it. And I didn't know that promotion or radio promotion or any of that was a thing. It's just kind of what I just fell into because I started making relationships with DJs. You know what I'm saying? And you start getting cool with the DJs, and it's like, well, what do you do with that? You make sure they get the records, you know. And back in those days, it was before the digital influence, so we used to take the vinyl, and, you know what I'm saying?
Take the CDs,
the CD pros, the CD singles before Serato and all that. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth and got into the game. But that's not the only way. I mean, there's some people that discover an artist, and the artist starts popping, and they get a job. You know what I mean? And they, to me, that's a little bit more of the elevator. But, you know, sometimes, you know, you never know. I had an artist I work with named Andrew Day, and she said your average overnight success takes 10 years. So, you know, to us, it's an overnight success because we ain't heard of them yesterday. And then now we see them and we're like, oh, wow, they just blew up overnight. But she's like, yo, you don't know. This person's probably working for 10 years at their craft, maybe more, putting in their 10,000 hours to get where they at. Man, so
that's some free game for y'all right there. I hope y'all paying attention, man. Let's kind of talk about your journey to Atlanta. You know, from you in that DC metro area, you moved here to Morehouse. Was it just strictly because Morehouse was like the Harvard of HBCUs, or because you saw the music scene and was like, I'm gonna try this?
It's funny, it's neither one. Actually, I'll be honest with you. I kind of was a little wild in high school and took a unconventional path. You know, I wasn't really the stellar student, and I wasn't the guy that was on track to go to Morehouse. But my father, he had moved to Atlanta while I was in high school. So he lived down here. And, you know, he had friends and different people in places that knew people at Morehouse. And I was like, you know, he talked about there might be an opportunity for you to get in there. And I was like, well, you know, I really want to do radio, television, broadcasting, which is funny now I'm doing this with you. But so I was actually applied to Clark first. You know what I'm saying? I applied to Clark. And I think, I don't know if I got in yet or not, but as I was waiting for, you know, to get accepted, the admissions joint, I met a friend of my dad's who was a Morehouse alum. And and he was like, sit out the fall semester. And, you know, submit an application to Morehouse, retake your SATs, see if you can get a better score, and write a dope essay, and maybe you can get into Morehouse in the spring.
Right.
So, and that's what happened. I got into Morehouse and started in the spring of 2000, so in January, kind of in the middle of the year, you know. So it was, again, a little unconventional, but my path is non-traditional in a lot of ways. But that's what really brought me to Atlanta is I saw my dad was down here, and there's a element of black excellence here in Atlanta, and it exists in DC too. So I don't want to take anything from DC, but DC's power is a little more political. Here it's a little more entrepreneurial. So I saw like business owners, like, you know, you don't know what this man does. He's not like, you know, president of this or vice president. He's like got his own business. You don't even know what he's doing, and he's making it. You know, my dad, he had a homeboy that ran a business that cleaned like office buildings. And you would never think of that. At least me,
it's not traditional.
Not traditional. I never thought of that as like somebody has to have a contract to get all these buildings cleaned every night. And you know, when I saw a dude's house and his cars, I'm like,
hold up, I could do this. Let me get some vacuums.
You know, I'm like, oh, so you don't have to, you know, get elected to something, or you don't have to go to college for all these years to be a lawyer or a doctor. Because where I grew up, it was like lawyer, doctor, accountant, banker, or politician. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
how it is in Jersey. It's like city, fireman, police, whatever. Or the other side of the tracks. Like,
exactly. Or the streets, right?
Yeah,
and so for me, it wasn't like I didn't see the opportunity till I came to Atlanta. So it changed my perspective on things. So that's what brought me down here, though. Is, you know, shout out to my pop, shout out Larry Wallace. You know, he got me down
that's
here.
dope, man. That's super dope that brought you down here, because like you said, there's no formula to it. I came down here to hoop.
Oh, did you?
And now
okay.
I'm on doing this. You
That's
know what I mean?
crazy.
So I get it. I definitely get it.
Where were you? Did you go to school?
I did a tour. So
really?
So I signed with a school in Jersey. I came down here to visit, and my dad was like, "Yeah, you probably don't need to come back to Jersey," because it was like a lot of my friends, man. Some of them did some great things. So I hung up with a lot of dudes that hoop.
Right.
So they played, but some dudes get caught up in street stuff and all of this. He was like, "Man, it's better for you down there." I started Black Excellence too, but I was still like, I wasn't paying too hard attention to it.
Right.
So I was like, I could probably just get on in one of these schools and hoop. So I ended up started Metro, went to Morehouse, went to Southern Poly. I did like a semester at Brigham Young.
Wow.
I signed with Clark, but they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me play right away because I just played at Morehouse.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, all right, I ended up finishing at Southern Poly, got my degree from there and hooped there.
That's what's up.
But that's what got me here.
That's what got you. You never know what it's gonna be that sparks that movement to get you where you're going.
Exactly.
And it takes you on a path that maybe you didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
You know, like I didn't know the music industry was a possibility. In DC, you know, go-go was like the music of the street. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't really a big hip hop scene there at that time. You know, there was some, but it wasn't.
It wasn't as prominent as
It's
that.
prominent as like down here with, you know, Organized Noise, Outkast, Goody, Crisscross, you know, So Def. Like there was something different here. LaFace, you know what I mean? So when I got here, I'm like, oh, wow, it's like right here, it's within reach. Like, you know, so all I got to do is work hard. Okay, that's what I do.
That's
so,
it. And that shows that, man, you graduated with honors from Morehouse and you came in as a non-traditional student, which is dope. I got to hit the hype bell for that, man.
Thank you, brother.
Let's kind of fast forward. You at Morehouse, you start interning with BME.
Correct.
How the heck did that happen? What is that introduction like?
Yeah, so it was different for me because where I grew up, I wasn't really familiar with the crunk movement yet. You know, that was still a little new to me at the time. And so I'm going to Morehouse. Like I said, I got in on probation, so I'm just focused on the books. After I got a semester or two under my belt, my man Orlando McGee I told you about, you know, I've been hanging out with him and running around, and you know, he was kind of moonlighting in the industry and working in city politics at the same time. And so I was meeting some of his connects, and then he got the job running marketing and promotion for BME.
Okay.
So when he got the job over there, he's like, you say you want to be in the music business? Come to the office. So I just started coming to the office. You ain't got to tell me twice.
I'll be there.
Yeah, say less. You know what I'm saying? So I would come over to the office, and I would just be sitting in there. Different artists would come through, whether it's Bone Crusher or Scrappy or Killer Mike. You know, it's that whole New South movement that was happening. You know, these records are starting to matriculate through the city. And they'd be like, you know, Vince Phillips, who's one of the owners of BME.
Shout out to Vince, man. He did one of my contracts. Shout out to Vince.
Yeah, shout out to Vince. Big time entertainment attorney. Shout out to Vince. Vince, you know, in Orlando really gave me my start. Vince would be like, yo, Will, you know, you go to Morehouse, right? Why don't you take these CDs, go pass them out? You know what I'm saying? Why don't you take these flyers, go pass them?
That's how it started.
And that's how it started. Crazy, why don't you go hang up these posters? You know what I'm saying? It just started like that. And as I grew, well, really as they grew, I grew, you know, and so they went from from the office in the little house off of Harwell Street to having a full operating budget through Warner Brothers and a nice office park off of Chattahoochee. And I just saw that thing grow as John grew and Bohagan and Scrappy and Crime Mob, and it just continued to build. And I was just in it, man. And, you know, I was just blessed, just right time, right place. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't have planned for it.
Right.
You know?
That's super dope, man. I remember going to that office house on Hartwell with Casper. I was over there earlier.
Casper,
my cousin was doing promo with him, and we ended up going over there for like a little party or something. That's crazy.
Shout out Casper, man. He was doing all the street team stuff back then. He's one of my mentors too. He showed me a lot. You know, he's like, nah, this is how you got to put the posters up. You know what I mean?
But I remember in that time, like I was in college around that time too. So I'm seeing, I wasn't in the industry yet. I'm doing hoop stuff, right? But I remember seeing you, Casper, Kadife, like y'all in the streets.
That's real.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Kadife put it down. Shout out to Stay Fresh. He was out there running around with us. Black Bill Gates. It was a lot of us that was coming up at that time, man. We just putting in the work. We didn't know nothing. We just out here hustling.
Just making moves, man. That's dope. So you moving around with BME, you take a move on faith to LA.
Yeah, it's again family. My brother lived in LA. So the brother I told you about that introduced me to De La Soul, in '99 he had moved out to LA. He had built his career as a stand-up comic, right? And that's another thing that made me feel like this entertainment stuff was possible. Seeing my brother do stand-up comedy and going to shows and seeing him get standing ovations, seeing him on BET Comic View. I was like,
that's gotta feel good.
Yeah, seeing him on Big Bro on the Apollo, like what? You know what I'm saying? Like he was telling that same joke in the basement. Now he's telling it on TV, you know? So Big Bro moved out to LA to get into film and acting and things of that nature. And every year he'd be like, yo, man, you know, when you get a break from school, you know, summer break, you know, spring break, come out here. So I would go out there to LA every once in a while. And then eventually, you know, as I was getting towards the end of my college career, he's like, man, I know you're doing your thing in the music business out there, but he's like, New York or LA is where it's at. He's like, you got to come out here. I got you. I'm building relationships. Because at the time, he had partnered up with Mekhi Phifer. And they started making films together. They made a couple movies. So they were meeting the rappers and moving around. He's like, yo, come out here.
Because
so
those industries intertwine quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
And I feel like Atlanta was popping. It really was popping. But the checks were coming from New York and LA to fund a lot of stuff.
The buildings were, and my whole plan was, let me go work at a major label, figure out what they learned, and then start my own thing. You know, that was the plan. That was the goal. So I kind of slowed up on the interning from BME, kind of slowed up on doing the street promotion stuff as once I graduated college in 2004, and I got a job at Enterprise. And it was a friend of mine, Terrence Battle. He went to Morehouse with me, and he came to me with a box of vinyl and was like, yo, you know, how much I got to pay you to promote my record? I know you know all the DJs. I see you running with John and them. And I kind of looked at him, you know, he had a suit on and everything, and I'm like, where are you getting enough money to pay me? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't even have enough money to pay me. Like, so where are you getting, you know, my rent at the time was like $700 a month. And I was like, you know, I was just living month to month after, you know, I got out of school. So I'm like, all right, you know, I'll work your project. And he told me he worked at Enterprise. And he said at the time at Enterprise, they had a program where if he referred somebody and they got the job, he'd get a $1,500 bonus. And he said if I wanted to go through the process, he would split it with me. So I'm like, that's 1 month's rent.
Sense.
You know what I'm saying? $750, that's a month rent. So I'm like, it buys me some more time to continue to hustle. So I went through the interview process just thinking, I just want to get hired so I can get the check, and then I quit. I'm not going to work here. But then in the interview, you had to do 3 interviews. In the second interview, the guy was like, yeah, after 6 months, you can transfer anywhere in the country. And that just set off a light bulb because I'd already been talking to my brother. So I said, now that's the play. So I get the job at Enterprise, you know, live very frugally for the next 6 months, save all my money.
Plan to make that LA move.
Make that jump. So after 6 months, put in for a transfer. I got the job, worked 6 months, saved all my money, put in for the transfer, and transferred with Enterprise. So when I got to LA, I already had a job. So then, you know, long story short, I worked in Enterprise for about 6 months in LA before I finally kind of wiggled my way in at Warner.
So, now, how do you wiggle your way into Warner? Because a lot of people tried to do this. So how did Wilt Wallace do it?
Again, it's all relationships. You know, go back to my man Orlando McGee that I mentioned. You know, he was still running marketing and promotion for BME. BME had a distribution deal through Warner for some of the artists, like John, China White, Ubi. They were all through TVT. But Scrappy, Trillville, Bohagan, Crime Mob, E40 were all through Warner.
Gotcha.
So working in the office at BME, I used to, get fax, you get on the fax machine back in those days, right? And, get vinyl shipped, or like I would build relationships with DJs that Orlando would meet on the road, and then call Warner and tell them to service those DJs, or send different product in the mail to those DJs, like Crunk Juice, the energy drink, or the T-shirts, or whatever we had at the time.
I remember the vans all over the city.
Yeah, the vans, DJ Scorpio driving the van around the city.
Right.
So through that process, I started building a rapport with people at Warner, because I had to get them on the phone to talk about servicing DJs.
I hope y'all
relationships, all about relationships. And so eventually, after I'm out in LA for about 6 months, I remember, I'll never forget this. Because at Enterprise, you're in a management training program. So you stay at the counter and like kind of run it like you're running the branch, but you also, if somebody needs a car and it's dirty, you go out there and clean the car in your suit and your hard bottoms, whatever you do, you got to do it all like you're running the business. So I remember it was one of them days where we were slammed. A lot of people were out. I was at the branch alone, and I had to go clean a bunch of cars. My shoes is wet. My dress shoes is wet. It's hot outside. I'm in LA. The sun's beaming on me. And I'm just like, man, I've been here 6 months, and ain't nothing shaking. I'm like, I can't keep doing this.
Right.
And I swear, in that hour, that little break that I was taking, Orlando called me. He was like, "You ready to get back in the game?"
Wow.
I'm like, what?
You
know what I'm saying?
Am I?
Yeah, right? So at the time, Orlando was working with Drama and Sense and Canon and the affiliates, and helping them with the mixtape stuff.
Right.
And he told me that they had made some changes at Warner, and there was a guy that had taken over the department, the mix show promo department, that needed some help. And this guy's name was Brandon Scales. And I remember Brandon from when I was at BME, talking to him on the phone. He always seemed cool. So Orlando was like, "I'm gonna set up a meeting with you and Brandon." So long story short, it took like a month to get the meeting, because Brandon was dipping and dodging, because he was like, he just got in a position and he's like, I don't really know this guy like that. I remember his name, I don't really know him. So eventually we finally got the meeting, and I come into the office at like, I guess the meeting was for like 10 a.m. and it was my half day off at Enterprise. I had to be at work by noon. And I go in there and I'm sitting in the lobby, and I get there probably like an hour early. Because I'm like, on time is late, right? So you got to be there early. So I get there early, and the receptionist's like, "Yeah, he's not in yet. I'll call him." About 30 minutes pass, hour pass. 2 hours pass. And I'm just sitting out there. She's like, right. No, so like now it's like probably like 10:30, 11, right? And she's like, "I don't know where he is. Are you sure that he knew you had a meeting today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm checking my little T-Mobile sidekick, back in those days. Like we sent the email, And then finally another guy comes in to meet with him, and he tells the receptionist that he's there, so she calls him. And then another 30 minutes to an hour later, he comes out to get the other guy.
Oh, wow.
Like he had forgot I was even there, right? So he comes to get the other guy, and he's like, "Oh, you still here?" I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, you let me in the door? You're going to have to force me out of here. I'm not walking. Right, you're going to have to throw me out of here. So he went and met with the other guy, and then he brought me back. And we were having a little conversation, and he's like, "Look, I can't hire you. You got to prove that you deserve the job." So he's like, if you want to start coming in about 3 days a week, making some phone calls to your DJ relationships in Atlanta, helping, put the storage, closet together, little grunt work, intern, gopher type of stuff, run, get the fax, get the coffee, whatever. He's like, if you can prove it, after about a month or two, maybe I'll hire you as a part of my street team and give you $800 a month. You know what I'm saying? And that's like a 1099. So, you're going to have to pay your taxes out of that $800 a month too. But, you only come in 3 days a week. And at the time, I'm making $40 a year at Enterprise. So, money-wise, it's like, that makes no sense. But it was like, yo, if your dream's in front of you, you got one chance to grab it. So I left that meeting, and I called Enterprise, and I quit right there on the spot. And I came in the next day and didn't leave until I had a job. I came in every single day until I had a job there.
But you came in every single day.
Yeah.
And then end up doing over a decade stint with Warner.
Yeah.
And got 5, 6, 7 promotions during this time.
During the time,
And now everybody knows who Wilt Wallace is.
A few people.
No, everybody knows. We're not going to let them downplay. We're going to hit the hype button for that.
Couple people.
I want people to like rewind that part of the interview back, because we all want instant gratification now, right?
That's right.
But the work you put in, the time and effort you put in shows that is what builds longevity in the game.
That's it.
You've seen so many artists in your position, right? You've seen so many artists come and go, but you've seen the ones that stuck. What is the main, attributes you see with those artists other than their talent?
Consistency. So consistency with delivering music, Because you can be talented but not deliver consistent quality music. You know what I'm saying? So consistency with the music, consistency with your relationships, the people out there, you know, you see somebody come through the radio station and they act a certain way. When they got that hit, you're going to play it. But as soon as they don't have that hit, you remember the way they treated you, right? You might not remember what they said, but you remember how they made you feel, right? So it's about how you treat the people out there that you're doing business with, but also your team, like the people around you, you know? And it doesn't matter if you have the experienced manager that has 20 years of industry knowledge and experience, or if it's the homeboy that came up with you. It's about the way that they handle their business, their professionalism, their dedication, their commitment. They have to be more committed than you because you're a creative, so you got to be in the creative space. And while you're in the creative space, they have to keep the business flowing.
That's it.
So it's about that team. So I just say consistency is the one key attribute I see, and that's within the creative process, the team around you, and how you treat the people you meet on your way up, because you see those same people on the way down.
Absolutely.
You know, and I see a lot of artists that maybe reached a point in their career where they didn't have the hits anymore, but they treated people right. People remember them. They still around. They still able to do stuff. They still able to move and shake. They still able to get booked because they treated people right. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about the relationship.
Treat people right. Let's hit the hype bell for that. That's something that you can. Now did you come when you came into Warner? Was it during that time where they had that fire sale? Because I know Scrap, when we talked, and he was like, "Man, my album dropping. I walk into the office and nobody is in."
So I want to say 50 versus Kanye was around 07, I think.
Yeah, 07. 07. 07,
so yeah, I was there, but I left Warner that year. So I was there 07. I left. I quit in November of 07.
Okay.
So not too long after the 50 Kanye thing. I feel like that might have been August or September, and then I left. And I worked independently for a year, and then came back to Warner in December 08.
Well, what was independently for you? Was it working different records independently? Then you was like, okay, I can go back to the major. I got this under my belt.
Yeah, you know, to me, at the time, just what was going on at Warner, and maybe this is a part of what Scrappy was talking about too. It didn't fit where I thought I should be at that time. Yeah. And, you know, seeing my brother and the stuff he was doing with the film stuff and seeing other people move and shake around me, I just felt like being a free agent, I could do more. Yeah. Instead of just, you know, at Warner, they just wanted me to do one role, which is cool, but I thought that I could do more. I thought probably I was a little more advanced in my career than I was. Yeah. And so I wanted to step out and see where I was at. After about a year, I saw I was in a good position, but wasn't ready to totally be self-sustained yet. So after about a year, a lot of things changed at Warner, and I had an opportunity to come back. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Some of the same people that were there were still there, but there was some turnover too, and they reached out. They needed somebody that specialized in the Southeast at the time. Yeah. And that was where I cut my teeth, you know, obviously coming up with BME and everything. I had the relationships here. And I talked to him, and I was like, look, I'll come back, but I don't want to be in L.A. anymore. I was like, because L.A. just didn't really fit me and where I felt like my strength was. My strength was down here in the South. And there's one thing to be on the phone with guys, like, you know, you can work the phone, but there's nothing like being in their face. You know what I'm saying?
Build those real relationships.
Yeah, build those real relationships. There was at the time, like DJ Hershey, DJ Will, these guys were doing all the big parties. And it was like, you know, they were the homies because they all came up in the BME circle too. Cersei, all those guys, but it wasn't the same being in LA because I didn't understand what was happening around them. You know, it's like they would tell me about Party Like a Rock Star, and I would hear them. But then when I came down here and saw kids flipping off of the speakers, and now you feel the impact. And like to take it way back to like when I first moved to Atlanta and kind of started with Jon and them, like I heard what they were playing the crunk music in the office, but until I went to one of those high school parties with Stay Fresh and saw 1,500 kids saying, like, "Put your hand where your fist is," it's like, oh, I get it now. Like, this is a movement. It's not just like a song. It's an energy. It's a movement. So I told Warner when I came back December 08, I was like, I'm down to come back. I'm down to do it for the money you want to do it for, but I need to be in Atlanta because that's where the culture is. And I need to be a part of that. You know what I mean? Because during the time I left, Atlanta went from, you know, bubbling to hot. Like Tip took off, Jeezy took off, Gucci took off. Like everything took off to a whole nother level.
The top in 07, maybe out of the top 10 records, I think it was like Tip was on there. It was almost all Atlanta artists.
It was.
And then on the mixtape circuit, you had Drama and them doing these crazy numbers.
Yep.
Even though they from Philly, it was out of Atlanta.
Out of Atlanta,
right.
yeah. And then, Screaming, those guys took
Right.
off in the Hood Rich movement. It was just so much going on in Atlanta. And I was like, man, I was a part of that. And I left to go find out what the corporate side knew.
Right.
But I was like, all right, I kind of did my like
figured
going to
out.
college. I
Going
did
to
my
college,
years
yeah.
in LA. Now I need to go back to where the culture's at and be a part of that. So,
Right.
yeah.
So you touch base in Atlanta. You with the big label, and
Yeah.
this is the time with these ridiculous budgets, and you're you're making moves. And are you at this time? Are you? I know you're servicing the DJs, but are you taking these acts to the different stations right now?
I was doing that. I was.
Okay.
There was a guy, Kevin Weeks, rest in peace, who was the Southeast Regional. You might have met him out here. He was the regional for Warner at the time, and so it was really Kevin's job to run the artists around. But Kevin was the big homie, so he would bring me with him.
Yeah.
And then if he had something else, or maybe there's 2 artists in town, he would take the bigger artists and I'd take the smaller artists. So that's how I started doing that. And then I think it was March of 2009, Kevin passed away, and they didn't fill his position immediately. So then I just became the guy running everybody around. Like, I just became the face of Warner in the Southeast, kind of. So from a promotion standpoint.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
everybody knows you now because you're in these spaces.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about radio at that time in Atlanta, 2009. This is when 107.9 isn't 107.9 yet. This is
I think
actually,
they
it is
were 107. They were
107.9,
107, yeah.
But it isn't the powerhouse and influential station as it is. You got V, you got 107.9. It's kind of taking off.
Yeah.
And you bringing these artists, and Atlanta's becoming a quote unquote like a New York when it comes to musical influence.
Yeah, and it was heavy, man. It was heavy, and it was really political. There was a lot of different, egos and different things going on around at that time. But it was exciting, man. Like, going in the club with Waka and just seeing the reaction to, oh, let's do it. And you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And just moving through the city and taking artists to do, like the New Boys that were from LA and bringing them out here to Atlanta and taking them to do their first interview with Greg Street or something like that, or some of these other guys that they had seen as influential figures on a national level because of what was happening in Atlanta. It was just really big, guys like Kirk O'Bangs, like he's from Houston, and Houston definitely broke his first song, What Your Name Is, but we brought him to Atlanta, and that's when he took it to the next level. Like, that's when it broke outside of Texas, because at that time, you could be self-contained in just Texas,
just
you know what I'm saying?
I talked about that with Kiki, because he was like, it's a gift and a curse. Like, I can go to Texas or Oklahoma and never have to leave and make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
That's right.
But if you break nationally, it's crazy. Then
it changes the game.
Travis Scott, you get your Kirk O'Banks, you get those type of artists.
Exactly. And so that it changed the game, because now Kirko could get booked at that time in Seattle or Phoenix or Salt Lake City or Chicago. You know what I'm saying? It kind of just expanded because of what we did in Atlanta, because Atlanta, like you said, was like the cultural influence. So once Atlanta got on it, like, everybody else is like, oh, we need to be on that. You know what I'm saying? So it was just fun being a part of that movement at that time.
Yeah.
It was a little more, I feel like, free at that time. It was like the Wild Wild West.
I think, and it was more face to face.
It was
a lot of that face to face.
It was.
Like,
because Instagram wasn't around yet.
I think you might have Black Planet, MySpace, something like that.
Yeah, maybe MySpace did. Twitter might have just been going, like getting going, but like it wasn't all this IG stuff and everything else. Now this kind of, to me, desensitized it a little bit. I mean, it's a great tool. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a great tool, but it also kind of takes a little bit of that human element out of it. It's like texting. Like I'll see you on Instagram all the time. I feel like I see you all the time, but I probably ain't seen you in the flesh in over 2 years or something. You know what I'm saying? But we're still friends and we cool, but it gives you a false sense of reality, because you think you really in everybody's circle.
I just saw him. I haven't.
I haven't. Like, I saw him post. Yeah, I saw what he's doing, but I wasn't really there, although I feel like I was there because I saw it on my phone. You know what I mean? So it's a gift and a curse, you know what I mean? But that time was just really fun for me.
I bet, man. That was like the heyday of Atlanta music, even though it's still rolling strong.
Oh, it's still rolling strong.
It's crazy, but man, that was a good time.
I mean, with Future and the Dirty Sprite and seeing that take off, man, it was exciting time.
Absolutely, man. You've seen the hip hop and the business transform. We kind of talking about that now in this transition, man. What about today's landscape do you love?
See, I love the fact that we have so much more information and data. We didn't have as much data before. It was more like gut. And I appreciate the gut and respect the gut, but I think having a nice combination of both just well arms you a little better. It's one thing if you're just a freakish athlete and can do everything on the court or on the field, but if you really master the playbook and are a freakish athlete,
you're dangerous.
It's different.
It's
different, right? So I feel like now we have both. We have, a different level of information at our fingertips, and we can get it in real real time. You're not waiting weeks for reports to come back from stores about what happened in Huntsville. Like I can find out what's happening on Spotify, Apple, and other places right now, today, in the moment.
That's crazy you said that, bro. Like when I was doing artistry, right?
Yeah.
I'm dropping these songs. We were touring with FYE, and I literally had to wait almost a month to see where I charted. So it was like we'll get the book, open the book, and be like, I'm top 10 hip hop single sales, like real story.
Yeah.
First time I charted, I was like, this is incredible.
Right,
you know
blows
what
your
I'm
mind,
saying?
right?
Like, I'm next to 50 in Music Soul Child, Chris Brown. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But to see it now real time, you can be like, okay, I got this many streams this week. I'm in this region. All right, let me push and do a social promotion over here. So that's dope. Yeah. I get it, man. What do you miss the most about the past? I guess you kind of
we just kind of talked about the human element, like being in the room. I remember when they used to do all the DJ conferences, like Mix Show Power Summit and all that stuff. And there's the programmer conferences like Urban Network. I came a little after Jack the Rapper and that stuff, but I heard that was really crazy too.
What was the one the one in Florida
with the Ozone Awards? Ozone Awards, it used to be crazy. So I miss the human element, and also I miss the physical, because like I was the kid that used to go to like Tower Records.
Oh yeah, I want to read it.
Yeah, I want to read the credit. Yeah. So like, because like back in the day, albums come out on Fridays now. Back in the day, they came out on Tuesday. So we would go where I grew up in Northern Virginia. We'd go to Tower Records Monday night at midnight, or we'd go like 11:30 and stand in line to get the new album when it came out at midnight. They would stay open late to sell the album when it came out at midnight going into Tuesday, and we would ride home listening to the album, reading the liner notes, and reading the lyrics and see, so and so produced this and such did that.
He wrote that.
He wrote that. So I miss that part. The hip hop magazines when tangible. I miss the tangible.
You
like
gotta
really
read about the artist. It kind of put them a little more out of touch, so it was more exciting to me in a certain way. Yeah, about that mystique.
And then even like with radio for me, when it was more live and local, and it's a lot more voice tracking, a lot more syndication, which is good. It's bang for your buck. You get it done, and I respect the business. But just for me, as like a fan of it, I like that live local energy. When we would burn the CD at the office and run up to the radio station, puts it on right there, and you're like,
and then you like, wait, let me hear if you play it.
That's crazy. Right.
That's dope, man. That actually made me fall in love with it too, man. Because I started at college radio, so it was like it wasn't open,
right?
And my homeboy rapped Tobias Sake. That was love hip hop. He rapped, so I was like, how could I get his record on? And we got them to open the station up, and I'm the only VJ there, only jock there. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just want to play his music. So that's
dope.
Crazy,
that's
bro.
Dope.
So yeah,
that's
it's
dope.
Definitely that.
But see, that's like what you talk about, relationships and loyalty. Like you doing something for somebody that you cared about led to a career for you. You know what I'm saying? That's amazing. Like the same thing happened to me. Like one of the main things that made me want to get in hip hop is one of my partners, my man Face back in Virginia. He was a super dope rapper, and I was like, yo, if I can go in and learn the business and put him on, we're gonna win. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes it's not all about you. It's not all about the instant gratification in the moment. It's about the long journey and trying to do things for others, and it can lead you to where you're supposed to be.
I think selflessness has a lot to do with a lot of people's longevity or success. You know what I mean? It's not just a thing. I just want some money. It's not that. I'm doing this. I actually jumped into something I didn't know I was going to end up loving because I want to help somebody else.
Want to help somebody else. That's right. Give back.
Super dope. All right, man. I definitely appreciate you. We about to play Fast 4 right now.
Okay.
Because it's you, we're going to play Fast 5. This is first me, the hype bell for it. Me changing the rules on the spot. Because I have a bonus question.
Okay.
We're going to start with it. All right, man. Before we do that, congratulations on the position, bro.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
After years with Warner Brothers, Columbia, they give you the big title. You need 2 cards to fit all the title on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So dope. I just wanted to say when I saw it, man, I was just super happy because you always been just a super genuine dude.
Likewise.
Sure.
And I appreciate you always showing love on my way up the ranks.
For sure, bro. Definitely. All right, let's get into it, man. 3 biggest names to you when it comes to professional sports in Washington. Of course, DC. We're not talking about Seattle.
3 biggest names all time.
All time.
Oh man,
this your list.
To me, it's got to be Doug Williams. First black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. A lot of people back home gonna hate on this, but RG3, that rookie year that we ain't never seen nothing like that. It was incredible.
It was like Mike Vick in Atlanta.
It was. And honestly, a lot of people is gonna probably throw me shade for this, but I gotta say Alex Ovechkin from the Capitals because he's like a GOAT. And I'm not even a hockey guy, but it's like people in DC don't realize they had a GOAT in the city and is on the hockey tip. Like he's up there like top 5 hockey player all time. I'd probably say that would be my list, just quick off the top of the head.
That's a real sports fan. I had to ask that question. All right.
Yeah.
All right. One thing you wish everybody knew about Wilt Wallace without you having to explain it.
Ooh. I don't know.
That's the first time we got. I don't know. First time.
I think that I would. My heart, the type of person I am. Like, why I do this, I don't do it for money or fame or attention. I just really love it. You know what I mean? And I just wish that I didn't have to prove that to people. Like, I think that sometimes people are so used to being gamed and hustled that they automatically come with their guard up. And I'm like, yo, you don't have to do that with me. Right. So if there's one thing, I'm not here for that. I just want to work hard and win. That's
what's up. I like that. I like that, man. Yeah. Info you received from a fellow exec, might be early on or maybe through your career that you use still through your journey.
Yeah, I don't remember where I got this, to be honest, so sorry to whoever I stole it from, but never get too high, never get too low. You know what I'm saying? Just stay balanced. Yeah. Never like, your wins, you're never as big as you think you are, and you're never as low as you think you are. So stay grounded in the middle. Like, them losses, you're going to bounce back. The wins, you are going to fall down. So don't get too caught up in your own, hype, and don't get too low when you're spiraling. So
we're not going to do a Reese's Peace of Mind or Pops Knows Best today. That was it right there. I appreciate that. I stole it from you. All right, you could take 5 artists, right? And they making a compilation. Yeah. You're working this compilation. Yeah. Who are those 5 artists?
I mean, can they?
This is yours. You can be whoever.
I'm putting Biggie, Pac, Jay, Nas. That'd be like my Furious 4 right there, right? You know what I'm saying? And then just because he's just dropped recently, and I love how he bucks the system every time he comes back, I throw Kendrick in there. You know, and somebody else that I got to know personally early in my career. J-Rock from TDE was signed at Warner, so I got cool with J-Rock and Kendrick, because Kendrick and J-Rock used to come to the office together, and they were just so cool. Like, they were about the music. You could tell they weren't about the hype. They would sit in my office and be rapping back and forth. Like, they were really about the music. So I got a lot of respect for Kendrick, because I seen his journey. Like, a lot of people maybe didn't know about him till a little bit later, but I remember seeing him in 06, 07, and then to see where he's at now. So I put Kendrick in there. That's
crazy, bro. That lineup is ridiculous. That's top 5 right there.
I'm just a hip hop head.
I can see that. Like, I clearly by the list.
Right.
All right, man. One piece of advice you would give yourself before the first day starting at BME as an intern?
Don't judge a book by its cover. A lot of times we walk into situations with prejudice, and we don't, we look at prejudice like, oh, that means you're racist. Like, no, it just means you prejudge. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we walk into a situation and we prejudge things based on what we've seen before, based on how we feel, based on our fears or whatever it is. And I would say, just don't do that. Like just allow yourself to really feel it out and figure out what's what, because it's not always as it seems. You know what I'm saying?
Dope, man. That's what's up. Let me hit the hype bell for that one more time. I want to appreciate you, bro. Come by.
Appreciate you having me.
Up with us, man.
Thank you.
Got my new wristband on here. I was wondering why my wrist so heavy. I got my Just AB Jones on today, man, so I appreciate that.
Real chunky.
Hey, man, I just want to say thanks again, bro, because I know you super busy. Thank you for coming by and blessing our audience with all this info, bro.
Hey, man, I would do it for you anytime, Reece. I want to tell you, like, and I told somebody this the other day, like, I don't really do interviews. A lot of people hit me up for interviews, and I'm only going to do it if it's like a friend or a person that I respect and that I want to build with. You know what I mean? So, like, when you hit me, I was like, I got to do it. It wasn't even about being busy. It's more about me just, look, I'm supposed to push my artist, not myself. But when you invited me on your platform, I couldn't say no. So I do it again, and thank you, brother, for having me.
All right, last question. What are the artists they need to check in for right now? Give me some artists that everybody need to tap in with.
Everybody know, I'm sure most people know about Tyler, the Creator, but he's amazing. Baby Keem, I'm going to be biased. I'm going to run through the Columbia roster.
You're supposed to, as you should, my brother.
Polo G, Lil TJ, you know what I'm saying? Triple X and Kanye have a new record out that's really dope called True Love. Nice. Definitely check that one out. Pharrell just dropped a new record today that we put out. Yeah, Pharrell, 21 Savage, and Tyler, the Creator, called Cash In, Cash Out.
Only Pharrell can get that combo.
Right, can get that combo. Right. And it's really dope on a personal level for me, because he has his Something in the Water Festival next weekend, which is usually down in the Virginia Tidewater area where he's from. But this year, for the first time, he's doing it in D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, so in it's Juneteenth weekend, it's Father's Day weekend, so that should be really big. Shout out to everybody in the DMV. Can't wait to see what that festival, how it jumps off. But to drop this song going into it, it's real exciting times for us.
Dope. Yeah. I felt like I was on my Wilt Wallace with me and Pops, and my brother was at the baseball game.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I feel like Wilt, because you always get them good selfies with mom dudes.
Yeah, with mom, Pops at the game. Yeah. That's my thing. I mean, when I was a kid, my parents used to take me to sporting events. We had a family friend that had season tickets to the Redskins, so they used to give us the tickets to go sometimes. And back then we didn't have the Nationals in DC. We used to go to Baltimore to check the Orioles, and so to me, that's like the legacy I'm carrying forward. And then also, like I said, shout out Kevin Weeks and my man Mar Brown. They both passed away, but they were executives before me, and they used their success in the game to get them access to these sports arenas. Yeah. And it was like their thing. They used to move around, and I used to just be like, yeah, one day I'm gonna do that. So now I'm doing that. Yeah,
that's what's up. Well, on that note, we up out of here, man. We appreciate my guy Will for pulling up on us, man. Reec Show Live. Don't forget, you guys, Monday we got Buzz Lightyear tickets. We giving them away for families, so get ready, man. We running that contest right here, Reec Radio Live. The game on our FM syndicated show, my brother Potty Ali, and of course we'll be doing it on social media as well, man. Shout out to everybody. Y'all have a beautiful, safe, and blessed weekend. We love y'all. We gone getting into this mix right now on Reec Radio.